From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. In today's show, Mark has a clip from the latest episode of Pods of Potential. I have the weekly export sales with Greg McBride of Allendale, and Dustin goes over the new USDA SPUR Program with the USDA Undersecretary for Farm Production and Conservation, Richard Fordyce. I'm Riley Smith, one of your hosts for today, and joining me now is Dustin Huffman. And Dustin, is a little unfortunate. I think you can drink the air if you go outside right now.
Yeah, it's plenty. I would always say it's chewy when you're out there for days like this. But yeah, it's going to be warm. And I went to look at the forecast. I'm like, oh, there's got to be a cool down coming here. And there's not. The coolest day we got supposedly coming up is like next Wednesday through Friday, where it'll be like in the low to mid 80s because it might rain. But then we're going right back into the 90s. It's supposed to be near 100 on Monday. Yeah, not looking forward to that. I'm hoping we're getting this out of the way now because you know how much I really don't like it when it's warm outside. I know you're a warm weather person, but I am not looking forward. This is what it's like at the state fair. I'm going to be sweating buckets. But so I'm hoping we're getting this out of the way now and it's a little bit more tolerable at the fair coming up for those 11 days.
Absolutely. And I am a warm weather person, but I'm not an oven person. I don't like to cook necessarily when I go outside, but I even thought it was going to rain a little bit yesterday. Like 9 p.m., I go outside and I felt like a few sprinkles from the air, and it was like sweet relief. It was so close, and then it didn't rain anyways. So we got a little bit of a sneak of rain, but nothing there for a while. And, you mentioned until Wednesday is kind of when we see the temperatures drop. It's going to be dry for a little bit, and that's kind of interesting because, it's been so wet so far this July. So that dry weather pattern is kind of coming at a time where, we're seeing that pollination. We'd rather see maybe a little bit of rain.
Yeah, and it was interesting yesterday. I was coming back from Nevada at the Story County Fair where we did our latest Heart of the County Fair presentation. And I got an alert on my phone as I was driving that the rain shower activity was popping up in Ankeny, and I could see the cloud line. I was like, oh, really? I didn't think it was all that much. And literally, I didn't even get enough to cover the windshield, and it rained for maybe, I would say, 25 seconds on the road, not even enough to cover the windshield, and it was over with. So I didn't know that was enough to get a weather alert, but apparently it was yesterday.
Yeah, I just was really hoping to see a little bit of rain there. But, speaking of that Heart of the County Fair award, how was it being able to go up to Story County and not only present that award, but see a little bit of their fair?
It was really good. It is a great fair, and they are so focused on the 4-H kids, the FFA kids, and the animals in the project. They call it the Story County Kids Fair because it is all about their projects and getting these kids up to the next level and, honoring those people yesterday and, talking with them about what's being done. And to think that only a week and a half before, some of their barns were almost completely underwater and they had to revamp and repair and revitalize it within a week to get it ready after those heavy rain showers we got. So looking forward to hearing that story more here coming up here when we release those stories coming up at the state fair. But right now, let's get into the markets. Mark Magnuson talking with Matt Bennett about the grains. He's from agmarket.net.
Joined today by Matt Bennett of agmarket.net for our opening market discussion. Matt, what's happening with the trade in the grains?
Yeah, so the overnight market, we saw lower trade and then actually kind of turned it around a little bit this morning. Saw corn up a little bit going into the pause in trade, if you will. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with some of the maps this morning came out a little drier bias, especially the farther west that you go. And so it's pretty tough to tell how we're going to finish the week, but no doubt we're trading forecast at this point. We know about everything we need to know on the demand front. Obviously, we've got some outside weather influences as well, or outside market influences as well, whether you're talking about, the Black Sea region, first of all, and second of all, looking at what's going on in Iran. I mean, this morning, you see crude oil's back up $2.50. I mean, the thing that was concerning yesterday, of course, we gave back some of the gains from Wednesday. But I've been trying to remind people it's unlikely it would have taken corn up 8 or 9 cents if wheat wouldn't have been up 35, and 44 cents on the Kansas City. I mean, there's no doubt that this wheat market's lent some support this week.
As you referenced with the weather forecast, a little bit drier expectation. What about the temperatures, Matt? I know that we are dealing with that extreme heat in the northern plains right now. Are we still looking for somewhat of a cool down to end out July?
Yeah, I mean, most of your forecasts are trying to move that dome to the west, and so if that happens, and you can back off on temperatures, there's no doubt it's going to give us a little bit of a respite there. I think the areas that I've been most concerned with and the growers that we're talking to would be North and South Dakota, parts of Nebraska and Minnesota. Some of these guys have had overnight temps that are barely getting into the 70s. And so, it's been awfully hot. Some of the folks in the Dakotas have told me, that they not only had 95-degree heat, but 30-mile-an-hour winds. And I mean, that'll sap a crop pretty quickly. But if we can get this thing to move west and then maybe get some moisture on the backside of it, it would sure be something we'd all welcome.
When we saw that wheat jump to the upside, that was obviously tied to Russia and Ukraine. Is there still some potential for more movement to the upside for wheat if that situation continues to deteriorate?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. The thing is that we have no idea how long that thing is going to go. The thing is, Mark, who's got the most exportable wheat in the world? Russia does, and they just happen to be involved in a skirmish right now that is causing wheat prices to skyrocket. So, I don't know. Is there other reasons that they're involved in this? I mean, obviously, they're not the only ones on the offensive at times. Depending on what you read, of course, Ukraine's been in that situation as well. But there's no doubt that this wheat market, you've got plenty of exportable supplies around the world. I mean, the world balance sheet is not razor thin by any means, but it's just, when's the wheat going to get to where it needs to get to? And, that's a concern. Now, the other thing on the wheat market I don't want to gloss over, is that this is super strong. El Nino is certainly wreaking havoc. Of course, in the EU, the wheat crop didn't get damaged as much as what a lot of people were afraid it would. But if you look over into, for instance, India, there are areas that the monsoon season is not expected to be all that great. There's a lot of question marks on what South American weather is going to look like moving forward as well. So we can't discount that the extreme El Nino might also impact wheat production in the future months here.
This year at the Iowa State Fair, Fair Spirit meets 250 years of American history in a celebration across the fair. See the America 250 Iowa display and a permanent sculpture created just for the fair. Walk the Iowa Veterans Memorial Walkway honoring service and sacrifice. Experience 250 years of the American flag, along with red, white, and blue contests and fair favorites. Then look to the sky for drone shows glowing in red, white, and blue, lighting up the fair like never before. From history to celebration, it all comes together at the Iowa State Fair. Learn more at iowastatefair.org.
August 13th through the 23rd.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters, and it's time for our analysis of the weekly export sales report. Riley Smith talking now with Greg McBride of Allendale to find out how those grain and livestock exports are holding up this week.
On the phone right now with Greg McBride of Allendale as we take a look at the weekly U.S. export sales report. First off, Greg, what do we see in the latest numbers from the USDA on the corn side of the report?
Yeah, corn came in 315,000 tons for old crop, 311,000 tons for new crop. The old crop number was below the estimates. The new crop number was at the lower end of the estimates. But overall, the new crop numbers are doing just fine. The old crop numbers, we're not going to throw a fit on those because we're basically so far ahead on from the USDA's goal that we could see some lower numbers. We're also not necessarily in the mode of paying attention to what new sales we're getting for the old crop. We're more paying attention to what's being shipped, and those are the numbers we'll keep an eye on. But as far as sales go, these numbers for corn just fine. No major issues there.
And then when we look at the bean side of the report, was it any more notable there?
Yeah, beans again. Smaller number on the old crop, 188,000 tons. That is perfectly fine. Again, it's one of those things we're watching more the shipments than the sales. We're in line with where we need to be for the old crop sales. The new crop sales is what we're paying attention to. We're starting to see those really come back around. We started out very slow, but we're about 10% of what we need to be selling right now, and we had a better than expected number this week at 1.77 million tons. The high end of the range of estimates was 1.7, so just above expectations there.
And then when we look at the flash sales as well, I know there haven't been any since Monday, really. But first off, how is that flash sale situation looking? I know a lot of the sales to China have been coming through there, and obviously there's still quite a bit of ways to go on that U.S.-China trade agreement to get those purchases done.
Yeah. So again, no flash sales since Monday. We'd like to see 2 to 3 per week. So obviously we've got tomorrow. Maybe we can get one booked tomorrow. As far as what we're looking at, as far as China's buying, they're roughly about 750,000 tons that they've bought so far, 760,000 tons. The unknown purchases is where some of those numbers, those bigger numbers have come in. We're up to about 2.25. So overall, we're sitting around 3 million tons of new crop sales to between China and unknown. A lot of times, and most times, we're going to look at those unknown sales as China until they get classified later on. So as of right now, like I said, we're about 10% of where we need to be to hit the USDA's goal. We're going right where we need to be. So I don't think there's any concern. The fact that China is coming in and unknowns purchases are coming in does keep us positive. But again, those are numbers that are already built into the USDA's balance sheet. So we need to see this plus some to feel like we're on track to meet the USDA's goal, and then to get even better numbers out of that to potentially see significantly higher prices.
All right, Greg, lots of great information today. For anybody who would like to get in touch for more marketing information from Allendale, how can they do that?
Give us a call at 800-2-MARKET. That's 800-262-7538.
Your local radio station keeps you connected to your community. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network provides ag-focused programming to keep your farm business running strong. Together, we bring you the latest markets, weather updates, and policy news. Whether we're in the field or in meeting halls, our team is always out and about gathering the news that's important to you. Powered by Iowa Agriculture, trusted by Iowa farmers. This message from your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Time to run down the basis numbers here on Iowa Ag Matters for this Thursday, the 16th of July. I'm Dustin Huffman. About half or more than half of our elevators have switched prices. Most of them, though, have started going lower, especially on the corn side. A couple of them, though, did go higher. Let's run them down. ADM Burlington, a dime under on corn, $4.39. Soybeans, 13 cents under, $11.93. Cargill and Eddyville, 20 cents under on corn, $4.29 for the cash bid. New Co-op Algona, 20 cents under on corn. They're at $4.29. Soybeans, 20 cents under, cash bid, $11.86. Ag State Sheldon, 17 cents under on corn. They're at $4.32. Soybeans, 40 cents under November at $11.64. Ag State Delta, 29 cents under on corn. Cash bid, $4.20. Soybeans, 35 cents under November at $11.69. We'll be staying with August beans from here on out. Cargill Cedar Rapids, a dime under on corn, $4.39. Soybeans, a nickel over, $12.11. Five-Star Co-op Nashua, 30 cents under on corn, $4.19. Soybeans, 30 cents under, $11.76. Lincoln Way Energy Nevada, 19 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.30. ADM Des Moines, near even on soybeans, the cash price $12.06. New Co-op Red Oak, 21 cents under on corn, $4.28. Soybeans, 25 cents under, $11.81. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain, 45 cents under on corn, cash bid $4.04. Soybeans, 50 cents under, $11.56. New Co-op Sheraton, 24 cents under on corn, they're at $4.25. Soybeans, 25 cents under, cash price $11.81. Walk-On Feed Ranch, 41 cents under on corn, $4.08. Soybeans, 56 cents under at $11.50. New Co-op Glidden, 31 cents under on corn, $4.18 for the cash bid. Soybeans, 25 cents under, $11.81. Innovative Ag Farley, 39 cents under on corn, $4.10. Soybeans, 55 cents under, $11.51. And at Cargill Muscatine, they're 16 cents under on corn, $4.33. Soybeans, 20 cents under, cash bid $11.86. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevator when making sales to obtain the most recent price. With this check of your basis numbers on Iowa Ag Matters, I'm Dustin Huffman. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this message.
Rod Stewart. When I see you tonight. A special evening with the icon. On a downtown train. A night of hit. After hit. After Monster Hit with special guest Richard Marks. Friday, August 14th, Iowa State Fair Grandstand. Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org. Don't miss an electrifying event. Friday, August 14th. Rod Stewart, live.
Back on Iowa Ag Matters, and we have some news that small and medium meat processors here in the United States are going to be getting some help from the USDA. Dustin visits with USDA Undersecretary for Farm Production and Conservation, Richard Fordyce, about the new USDA SPUR program.
The United States Department of Agriculture is launching a new effort to strengthen the nation's meat processing infrastructure. The Strengthening Processing for U.S. Ranchers, or SPUR program, will invest $500 million in small and mid-sized meat processors across the country. USDA says the goal is to preserve processing capacity, strengthen the supply chain, and ensure livestock producers continue to have reliable options for marketing their animals. The funding is targeted towards processors handling 2,000 head of cattle or fewer each day. USDA officials say those facilities play an important role in serving local and regional producers, as well as farmers and ranchers who market beef directly to consumers or through branded retail or restaurant programs. Undersecretary of the USDA, Richard Fordyce, says several agencies will work together to determine eligibility and distribute the funding.
The Farm Service Agency is going to administer this program, but it's not going to be done at the county office level. It'll be done from headquarters in Washington, working very closely with the chief economist's office, who will help determine the calculation on the payment rate, and then the Food Safety Inspection Service, that are the keepers of all the records, right? So they'll be able to identify the number of head related specifically to a specific plant. So we'll get those numbers from FSIS, work with the chief economist's office to develop the payments. And then FSA at the headquarters here in Washington will be notifying those processors about their eligibility and their potential payment, and then how to go forward from there.
USDA officials are still compiling processing data before notifying eligible businesses. Fordyce says the department will measure the program's success by whether it helps preserve processing capacity and keeps an essential part of the ag supply chain operating for producers across the country.
And if we are successful, we've been able to retain that critical marketing supply chain piece and ensure that it stays in place, which is, obviously critical. We've got farmers of all kinds in this country. And, most of the things that we grow require some processing of some kind. This beef processing piece is really no different. We've got to continue to ensure that the infrastructure stays in place. And again, that very, very important supply chain link from the farm or the ranch to the consumer needs to stay in place.
Although the nation's cattle herd remains at historically low levels, Fordyce says USDA views the investment as preparation for the future. As producers work to rebuild herd numbers in the coming years, maintaining enough processing capacity will be just as important as increasing cattle inventories.
We need to ensure that critical link, that critical processing supply chain link stays in place as we work on other fronts to increase the beef herd number, because think about it. If as we continue to work to increase that herd size, if we start to lose that very important link to the consumer, the processor, then we find ourselves in another problem. A year or 2 or 3 from here.
The SPUR program is being administered differently than many traditional USDA assistance programs, relying on inspection data and coordinating between multiple agencies rather than local Farm Service Agency offices. Fordyce says USDA is still determining how information about recipients will be shared publicly once the program is underway.
This is a little bit different way of doing a program. We've not really done one this way before. Where we're going to be able to get those the numbers for eligibility are going to come from the Food Safety Inspection Service. It's going to be administered from Farm Service Agency here in Washington. Farm Service Agency will proactively reach out to contact the eligible processors. That's a great question. I don't know that I know the answer to how we'll track that. But we always do. We always figure out a way to get that information out. And so we'll do that. I'm just not sure today exactly how we're going to do that.
Fordyce says that maintaining strong processing sectors is critical to keeping the beef supply chain functioning efficiently from the ranch to the consumer. USDA expects the SPUR program to help ensure smaller and mid-sized processors remain an important part of that system while the cattle industry works towards rebuilding the national herd. For Iowa Ag Matters, I'm Dustin Huffman.
Rod Stewart.
When I see you tonight,
a special evening with the icon.
On a downtown train,
A night of hit after hit after hit with special guest Richard Marks. Friday, August 14th, Iowa State Fair Grandstand. Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org. Don't miss an electrifying event. Friday, August 14th. Rod Stewart, live.
Well, Dustin, like we mentioned earlier, you were up in Story County yesterday, up in Nevada for the Story County Fair. And how are the crop conditions looking along the way as you were going along the interstate? I know some things are looking a little dry right now.
In some areas they are. I mean, it would be weird to think that with those 10 to 13 inches of rain we saw in some places here in the last beginning of the month, I should say, that we would be talking about any kind of dry conditions. But you also have to understand that as much as this water came down, the ground can only soak up so much at a time. And that's why we're talking about flooding of creeks and streams and stuff like that. Hence, like we're talking about Nevada there with the flood waters getting into some of the barns before the fair. The fact of the matter is that rain, even though it was over a day and a half, 2 days, it can't soak in that fast. And so even if the ground is dry, it can't do it. And so to see corn, and pollination is hard. Tasseling and pollination is very hard on corn. It stresses it out quite a bit. And to see the corn along some of the roads I was on, where it was standing straight up with the leaves, up as high as they can. And any farmer will know that when those leaves are standing straight up, it's the corn is trying to collect whatever moisture it can, whether it's from the dew, from any rain, any moisture it can get, because obviously the ground has gotten its water and the corn is not going to suffer, but it could use another shot maybe, like I said, with the runoff we had. It's looking for whatever it can to help power its way through this pollination phase.
Absolutely. And then with the hot and dry weather on top of that, hot weather is not necessarily so bad, but then when it's dry, it's very easy for that moisture to leave the corn. And then that's when we get a bunch of that corn sweat, as we talk about the humidity in the air, and it's not staying in the plant. So very interesting to hear that already we're looking at some dry conditions in the state. More Iowa Ag Matters in a moment.
Your local radio station keeps you connected to your community. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network provides ag-focused programming to keep your farm business running strong. Together, we bring you the latest markets, weather updates, and policy news. Whether we're in the field or in meeting halls, our team is always out and about gathering the news that's important to you. Powered by Iowa Agriculture, trusted by Iowa farmers. This message from your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
It is the Midday Market Report for Friday on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. On the phone right now with Lori Carter of Comstock as we take a look at the midday markets. Lori, what are we seeing in the grains here at midday?
The grains are green across the board with Kansas City wheat the leader. We have September Kansas City wheat up 13 cents at 729.5. Chicago wheat's lagging a little. It's up 6 to 7. Corn's up 2 to 2.25, and soybeans up 7.5 on old crop, 8.25 on the new crop November.
And something interesting we've noticed here in central Iowa is that despite the rain we got in early July, the corn leaves are already pointing up, so they're trying to get that moisture. Looks like it's going to be dry for a little bit here. I know we're in a weather market. Is that weighing in on the markets, or will it weigh in here soon?
I think so. I think hot weather will support the market for the time being. I'm in Kansas, and same thing. We probably have some corn stressed here too from the heat. So yeah, I think it'll be supported for now.
And then as we look at the global situation on top of that, we're seeing two wars going on at the same time globally. We've got other things impacting that as well. Two major shipping straits that are closed. I feel like this has kind of created a super weather market almost, where it just feels very volatile, and any headline is going to cause quite a bit of movement.
You're correct. It's definitely volatile, and the energy markets probably add an underlying support to the grains too, as far as the relativity to ethanol and biodiesel and all that. So yes, definitely some support under grains from all of the above.
And then looking at the livestock side of things, cattle really took it on the chin yesterday, today in the red again so far at midday. How are those cattle and hog markets looking?
Cattle continue to be very weak. Fat cattle down $2.40 to $2.60. Feeder cattle down $1.10 up front, but as much as $4 out in the back months like January and March feeder cattle. They are extremely oversold and way below the respective cash indexes. So I would expect some bounce back here today, but so far we do not have that. The hogs, on the other hand, are strong. We have August up $1.62. The rest anywhere from 40 cents to $1.27.
Get in the fair spirit at the Iowa State Fair and save before you go. The countdown is on to the Iowa State Fair, and now's the time to plan ahead. With advance admission tickets, lock in your visit before you arrive and step into 11 days of live music, fair traditions, incredible food, and summer moments you look forward to all year long. Save $5 now. Advance tickets are available now at iowastatefair.org, on the app, and at participating Iowa Hy-Vee and Fairway stores. Celebrate fair spirit at the Iowa State Fair.
August 13th through the 23rd.
At midday, September corn up 2 even at 4.43 and a half. December new crop up 2 1/4 at 4.66 and a quarter. August soybeans up 7 3/4 at 12.02 and 3/4. November new crop up 8 even at 12.03 even. August soybean meal down 2.50 at 3.20.40. August soybean oil up 2.91 at 75.34. Chicago wheat up 6 even at 6.80 and 3/4. Kansas City hard red winter wheat up 12 1/2 at 7.29 even. Minneapolis spring wheat up 6 even at 6.91 and a quarter. September oats down 3 1/4 at 3.42 and a quarter. On the Merc, August live cattle down 2.63 at 224.45. August feeders down $1.38 at 345.23. August lean hogs up $1.60 at 101.88. That's been a check of the midday markets here on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith reporting.
We're back into the markets here on Iowa Ag Matters. Going to talk about what's happening with those cattle and hogs. Cattle has been under serious pressure, and this morning back to triple digits below break even again. Matt Bennett of agmarket.net rejoins the conversation with Mark Magnuson.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade after an interesting day yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, no doubt this livestock market's been rough. I mean, you look at fats, and I mean, you're looking at how many days in a row down. We're down again here this morning a little bit, but, yesterday was a big down day. Of course, you submitted yourself on the August fats below all moving averages. The 200-day was the last one to give way. As we get started this morning, though, it's not near as rough looking. I mean, we're down anywhere from 12 cents to 40 cents. So we don't have any $2 and $3 losses on the board just yet. You've got to think that somewhere in here this market will maybe catch hold, but the problem is we know the fundamentals, we know that they're bullish, but it is a very old story, and unfortunately I think the funds have maybe lost a little bit of the interest they had previously. Anytime this cattle market's gotten up to that $2.50 $2.50 mark or higher, it just seems like we've stalled out and couldn't find any buying on the other side of it. So, right now it sure looks like this market's going to hopefully at least stabilize. But, man, I don't know if we're going to bounce back significantly either.
And the frustrating thing as well, too, is that there's not really much that we can look for in the way of a bullish news story, is there? I mean, there's just not a lot that would drive things to the upside in this current moment.
No, if the fundamentals we're already seeing don't do that, clearly it's problematic. I think that if you could get into a position where the West got plentiful rainfall, throughout pasture areas, maybe you could start to talk about, hey, maybe some of these heifers aren't going to show up in feedlots this next go around. But the problem is, it's been a long time since they felt good about the kind of condition everyone's pasture has been in, and so many of these heifers have hit the feedlots. The numbers continue to stay strong, but I mean, they could get awful tight, Mark, if we could switch this weather thing around. It just unfortunately doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon.
Matt Bennett of agmarket.net. Head to agmarket.net for all of the marketing information and resources and to get in touch with the team. Matt, thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate it, and have a great weekend.
All right. Sounds good.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters. We're back here on Iowa Ag Matters, and as I mentioned earlier, the latest episode of Pods of Potential is out, and Mark Magnuson visiting with the team at the Iowa Soybean Association about the latest crop conditions that we're seeing here in Iowa for the soybeans.
Welcome into this episode of the Pods of Potential podcast. Today we're talking with Iowa Soybean Association agronomist about what's happening in the field right now. It's, of course, at that point of the growing season, and it's time for a little bit of an update. We're here with our friends at the Iowa Soybean Association's Research Center for Farming Innovations, and I'm joined today by research agronomist Shane Beck and conservation agronomist Brock Webb. And when we think about a year like last year where we had a lot of disease pressure, and this year we're starting off fairly wet, very hot, does it at least start to get you thinking about that we could be seeing some disease pressure here later on and just taking those conditions into account?
Yeah, definitely. And one thing, like just knowing your field history, like if you've had tar spot in the past, monitoring for that as we keep going is very important. And just kind of keeping an eye on like social media or other agronomist reports. If we knew southern rust was coming last year, just because it starts in the south and moves north. So we should see that again if it's going to happen.
And then Brock, last year when you think about it, didn't have the widespread disease, I don't think, with soybeans like we saw with corn. Is there anything to be thinking about soybeans specifically this year with the conditions and just how we've set up for this growing season?
One thing that I've thought in the back of my mind is that cool, wetter spring that we started off with, and maybe seeing some sudden death later in the season. We saw some of that across the state last year as well. Unfortunately, there's not much management-wise that you can do about that, but hopefully you made some changes in the off season going into this year, and those results will pay off for you on the sudden death side.
Shane, let's shift gears just a little bit here. I know you've been involved in the corn rootworm survey. Could you tell us exactly what that was, the aim to find out with the corn rootworm survey and kind of some of the results from it?
Yeah, so this is something we've kind of done the last 4 or 5 years. So it's a partnership with us and some independent crop advisors working together to basically monitor how corn rootworms are progressing. So we're kind of looking at a bunch of different management, like are we using insecticide at planting, foliar insecticide, and different traits on the corn. And basically what we're looking for is, are we seeing more resistance or anything like that? So it's very similar to what Iowa State is doing in their corn rootworm survey, but what we try to do is about 140 fields a year, both looking at corn on corn and rotated acres, just to see if there's any difference there or if we're seeing more resistance from one species or the other.
Has anything jumped out to you as far as the findings and some of the things that you've been able to learn out?
Generally, what we see is it's pretty well localized. Like we'll get a field here or there that's pretty bad for corn rootworm, but last year we actually had pretty low numbers across the state, surprisingly. So generally, we're not seeing a whole lot of pressure if you're actively managing your corn rootworm.
And that's what I was going to say. Is that the big takeaway then? Just staying ahead of it at all times and trying to have that plan in place? Is that the general takeaway?
Yeah. As long as you're using multiple modes of action, whether it's insecticide on the planter or different traits or even spraying insecticide later in the year, it doesn't help you much for that year, but can help you manage your population going forward.
All right. That's very interesting. And then as we now start to think about the heart of the growing season, that's kind of what I think about when I think about July. And we are getting close to that month. Let's start with you, Brock. What should we be scouting for in July when we're getting out in our fields, paying attention to what we need to be paying attention to? What are those things you're going to be looking for right away?
Yeah, as we start switching from the vegetative stages to the reproductive stages, just keep an eye out for disease pressures we've talked about, but also just any signs of stress in your crop. And if we are seeing stress, let's think about ways that we can address that, and hopefully we keep getting these rains, maybe in a little less increments, but yeah, that's mainly the gist of things. Just get out and, I would say, crop scout weekly for fields. Last year we saw things change pretty quickly in the month, later July. So I would say just get out and scout as frequently as you can. If you're going to take a vacation, make sure you hit those fields up. I know some guys had a 10-day window last year where they came back and we had some southern rust, and it was just, shocking, some of the findings.
Get in the fair spirit at the Iowa State Fair and save before you go. The countdown is on to the Iowa State Fair, and now's the time to plan ahead. With advance admission tickets, lock in your visit before you arrive and step into 11 days of live music, fair traditions, incredible food, and summer moments you look forward to all year long. Save $5 now. Advance tickets are available now at iowastatefair.org, on the app, and at participating Iowa Hy-Vee and Fairway stores. Celebrate fair spirit at the Iowa State Fair.
August 13th through the 23rd.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Well, that puts the wraps on Iowa Ag Matters for today and for this week. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Thanks to Riley, thanks to Mark, and thanks to you for listening. We'll see you back here on Monday on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.